Good afternoon, boys and girls, and mommies and daddies, and grandmommies and grandpoppies. I am sorry that I'm a little bit late today. It just is kind of like one of those days. Yeah, you've had them all. We've all had them, rather. So today's story is they're going to Jacksonville to see what they won. Now, when Miss Eileen had to send, I'm sorry, but I have got the noisiest neighbors around here, and that's why I shouldn't be looking out the window. So I'll do like this, okay? Um, we have we When Miss Eileen sent the art project in, she was asked to tell about her class. And so she did. She's a very good writer, and so she did. And she was going on about that they went outside in the hot sun and on the hot sidewalk and colored out there because that way they could lay their whole entire paper out and they didn't have to put it up on the blackboard and go around the corner and everything like they did the first time. And then she told about some of the children in the class. And so she read it to Mrs. Lee, and Miss Lee, the principal, said, "Oh, that sounds so good." So she was really hoping that she would get in, the boys and girls would get in the first three, one of the first three, like either the first prize, ooh, or the second prize, or the third prize. Because she put her heart into what she wrote about the boys and girls and about how good they were and what good grades they got and everything. When I remember when we were here Monday, and I think I forgot about Wednesday, I'm sorry. Anyway, when we were here Wednesday, we were talking about the new kids in the class and Wanda and Whiskers Wolf, and so they got to go along with the boys and girls because if they came to school, there wasn't anybody to teach them because Miss Eileen was with the class. So they got to go along too. Well, their mother decided to be one of the chaperones at the last moment because she figured that'd be a good way for her to get to know all the other mothers in the schoolroom. So they had to get up at 6:30, remember? Oh my goodness gracious. Well, they made it. They got up at 6:30 and they got down to, well, they had to be there by 6:30. So they got up. The Piggly, Wiggly, and Squiggly, they got up at 5:30. And all the mamas had told the boys and girls, well, you could sleep on the bus. In fact, she says, we'll probably be sleeping too, us grown-ups. So they got to school about 6:15, and the bus was already waiting for them, and Mr. Farmer Brown was dressed in his good shirt and his good jeans, and of course, Little Bad Wolf was with him and Mrs. Farmer Brown. Now, they got on the bus, and they were all told to bring a suitcase because Mrs. Lee and Mr. Farmer Brown got together and they were talking, and Mr. Farmer Brown was telling Miss Lee how good St. Augustine was and how educational it was. Well, St. Augustine is one of the two cities that were owned by both France and Spain at different times. No other towns can say that they were both owned by Spain, and then later on they were both owned by Spain. And it's a lot of history. So Miss Lee said, I think that we should make a trip there. Mr. Farmer Brown says, yes, I think so too. Well, that was a complete surprise to the boys and girls because nobody had told them yet on purpose because they wanted to surprise them. Well, they were told to bring suitcases. So Mama Piggy, she didn't even know. And I remember hearing that Mrs. Farmer Brown wasn't too sure either how come they had to bring a change of clothes and pajamas. So Mr. Farmer Brown loaded all the suitcases in the back of the school bus, and he got in. The boys and girls were already sitting down, and they had their pillows out, and they were all going to go back to sleep. They were tired. They're getting up that early, and they always usually they get up at 7:30 or 8, depending on how close they live to the school, to get there by 8:30. And so that's 2 hours, and they were pretty sleepy, pretty tired. So it was a nice quiet ride up to Jacksonville because everybody was sleeping, including some of the mothers were. And so they pulled up to the school. He had directions on how to find the school, and they pulled up to the school, and they got out, and they all walked in single file because they all had their walking buddies that they had to pair up with. Everybody was paired up with somebody. And Miss Eileen and Mr. Farmer Brown went in. And this lady was behind the desk, and she looked at the group like, oh my goodness gracious, what's going on here? And Miss Eileen says, we're here for the art project awards. Oh, yes, 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 yes. She said, I should have known that. She says, we have a couple of groups here already. She said, just go down this hallway, and the first door on your left will be the auditorium. She says, there should be a sign down there for seats for you. And so Miss Eileen and Mr. Farmer Brown led the kids down the hall. First door on the left, they went in. And oh my goodness gracious, it was a big auditorium. This school was pretty big. And they also had a building here for kindergarten up to the 6th grade. And then they had another building back behind it that was even bigger, that was for the 7th grade up to the 12th grade. Oh my goodness gracious, this was a big school. So Miss Eileen, she found the name of the class. Miss Eileen and the art project was written on a sign by the seats, and they had them roped off. And so boys and girls went down to the other end, and they came in like this into each of the rows. And they all sat down and was very quiet, because now they were wide awake. They had their sleep over with, and they were wide awake. And so they were all kind of talking to themselves like this, you know. And she told them, she says, now, you do not talk loud. She says, if I hear any loud talking, she says, I'm going to get on to you. And you don't want to be embarrassed in front of all the rest of the children. So they did. They calmed down quite a bit. Even the little one that's always in trouble, and I keep forgetting his name, Jimmy, I think it is. I don't know what his name is. He even whispered. And the person that he was with, that he had to walk in with, you know, holding hands, it was a little girl. And she always kept telling him, shh. And sometimes she would help him with his lessons, because she sat next to him, across from him, you know, in the class. And sometimes she would help him with his lessons. So she knew that he was having a hard time. But they all were real good. Well, all of a sudden, oh my gosh, the lights go down, and the lights on the stage come up, and the curtains opened, and there stood a lady and another lady and a man. Well, it must be the principal, and it must be the art teacher. Now, who was the other teacher, I wonder? Don't know about that. I bet it was another teacher. Maybe it was the principal's secretary. Don't know who it was. We'll find out. So that particular lady, would you believe it or not, introduced the principal and the art teacher. So apparently her job was to call each class up and introduce the teachers that went with that class. So she was the I don't know what you would call her, a host, I guess, and she introduced everybody. Well, that was a pretty nice job. She had to know all the names and had to how to pronounce them because some of them were Spanish names and they're kind of hard to pronounce unless you're Spanish. So she really had a whole list of paper here, of all these names that she was supposed to introduce. Well, the whole auditorium had filled up. There was schools from all over Florida. Some of the kids were not the whole class. They was only able to bring just the art kids. And thank goodness our school was able to bring that whole entire class. So that was good. Well, they started calling names and they brought everybody up and they called the teachers, and they introduced the teachers. And the teachers talked about the art project and what the boys and girls did. And so Miss Eileen, she basically said the same thing that she had written in the contest paper that you fill out, to do this. So, of course, the school, the judges at the school, which was all the principal and all the teachers, they had already picked the first three winners, first prize, second prize, and third prize. They had already picked them. So it really didn't make too much difference what the teachers were saying. It was just nice that the other teachers in the audience could hear them. Well, then they all sit back down again. And so when all the classes had been introduced, and that, oh my gosh, that took like an hour. It was so many of them. Well, by the time they got through, the principal says, and now we will bring up the first three winners. And when he was up there, when the kids were up there, they gave them all a certificate that was framed in a real pretty frame, and it had their name and their school and the date, and it said that they were in an art project called Florida Schools Art Project. And it said what date it was and where the school that they were at now in Jacksonville was, and the principal's name and their principal's name and teacher. It was just, oh, it was so nice. And everybody got the certificate in a frame. Oh my goodness gracious. Mama Piggy said, that's going up on the wall. And of course, Squiggly said, yeah, we knew it was, Mama. You got everything up on our wall, don't you? Because she does. She's got pictures in the hallway of all of the kids and their relatives and their friends. And then she's got pictures all around the bedroom and the living room of the piggies. And then on their wall in their bedroom, she's got all of the medals and the certificates that they got from school. So, yeah, Mama Piggy puts everything up on the wall, which is really nice, isn't it, boys and girls, to go walk by and see your stuff up on the wall. Now, I have a little granddaughter who used to be the lighting chick here. And whenever she gives me a drawing, I put that up on my refrigerator. How about that? Because that's what I used to do to my kids. I put their stuff on the refrigerator. And that's what all mommies and poppies should be doing, because you're proud of what you did. Well, get back to the story. So she called up, the principal says, now, when I call these classes up, these schools up, just because I said one name first and maybe one name last, that doesn't mean that that the first name was the winner. You have to wait and we'll find out. So he called up a school from St. Cloud. Oh my goodness gracious, that was real far away from Jacksonville. They had to drive real early this morning or come in late last night and stay at a hotel. Do you reckon they stayed at a hotel? Wow, I bet they did. And of course, our kids didn't know where St. Cloud was, and so they were whispering, where's St. Cloud? I've never heard of St. Cloud before. Have you heard of St. Cloud before? They didn't know where it was. You know where it is? It's right by Disney World. Yep, it is. It is right by Disney World. The next school they called up was the school in the woods from Tampa. Yes, our school. Oh, the boys and girls got up and they marched back up there and they were so happy because they knew that they were going to get either first prize, second prize, or third prize. Now, I forgot what they got last time, the first art project they did. I don't remember. Do you? It might have been third prize. It was something that I don't remember. We'll have to look it up, I guess. GrandMommy needs to look up a lot of things that we've talked about and write them down. Because I have like a little diary that all the stories, the stories are not written in my diary, but the people are. And if they did something special, that's written in GrandMommy's diary. And I got to go back and catch that up because I'm so far behind in it. Oh, well, January, February, March, April, May. Yeah, I'm 5 months behind. That won't take too long to catch up. So, now they call the third school My Loud Neighbors. That school was a pretty big school. It was from Pensacola. Now, Pensacola is way the end of Florida on the peninsula, way far away. So they probably had to get here last night too. Wow. I guess our boys and girls were lucky that they got there this morning and they didn't have to stay overnight. But they don't know they're going to stay overnight tonight, do they? That's a surprise. So, principal said, now, boys and girls, he made a great big speech. I can't repeat all of it. But he said, boys and girls, he said, congratulations on the first 3 prizes, first, second, and third prize. All of you did good, and it was hard to pick. The first prize we picked pretty quick. But the second prize, it was just hard to see who was going to be in second and who was going to be in third. We kept going back and forth. We should have probably made a tie. And he had already planned all this. Nobody knew it. And so he turned to his helper, the host that called all the names out, and he says, Miss Brown, he said, I think what we're going to do is we're going to change things a little bit. And oh, she got so worried. Oh my gosh, what was he going to do? Oh my gosh, what was going to happen? And the kids in the audience, they got all excited. Oh, what's going to go on? What's going to go on? Oh my dear, what's going to go on? What's going to go on? Oh my goodness gracious. And you know what he did? He said, would the school from Coral Gables stand up? Oh my goodness gracious. That was down by Miami. Whew. You had a pretty good reputation here. We're up in Jacksonville, and we came from Tampa. And then there's a school from Pensacola that's way over here. You go back. Now there's a school from St. Cloud. And now that down here at the bottom, there's a school from Coral Gables. I mean, that represents the state of Florida, doesn't it? Well, the kids from Coral Gables, they came up and they were laughing. They were so excited to be up on the stage because that meant that they had a chance to be first or second or third. What do you think is going to happen? Well, third place went to the school from Coral Gables. And everybody clapped and just cheered and cheered and cheered. And so the principal, he gave out ribbons and trophies about this big, okay, to all the boys and girls. So they had to walk past him. He put the trophy or the ribbon around their neck. And then the lady host, she gave them the trophies. And they walked off stage. Oh, they were so proud of themselves. And these are little kids. They have a right to be proud like that. But they did really good work. So, as you might imagine, tied for second place. That means they were so good that nobody could figure out who was the best one. tied for second place was Pensacola and St. Cloud. So now they all paraded across the stage, and the principal gave them out their pretty ribbons. That they were the red ribbons. Is it the right? I forget what the third place ribbons are. I think they're white or gold. Somebody correct me on that, okay? I'll look down in the comments and see if you know the right answer, because I don't remember. And they got a statue a little bit bigger this time than what the other ones got. Now, of course, you know, the lady that was the host of the school, and she was calling off all these names earlier, she's looking at the principal like, you pulled a fast one on me. I didn't even know this, and you went and got extra ribbons and extra trophies. And he just smiled at her and says, yep, I did. He was an old cracker. He was a good old principal. He liked to laugh and have fun with all the boys and girls. Well, my gosh, you know what that left? That left one school for first place. And who was that school? Coral Gables got third place. Pensacola and St. Cloud tied for second place. That left our boys and girls for first place. Now, wasn't that something? Oh, my goodness gracious, they couldn't believe it. Miss Eileen about fainted. They had to help her back up off the stage because she did kind of like this. Well, they were just jumping up and down. They couldn't help it. They were just jumping up and down. And the principal says, okay, boys and girls, I know you're excited now. So come up and get your ribbons and your trophies. Well, they got a blue ribbon, said first place on it. Oh, they were so proud of themselves wearing that ribbon, I'll tell you right now. Well, all the boys and girls were. You know, they really were. The third place and the second place, because that's a nice ribbon to have. And they got trophies this big. They could hardly even carry them off the stage. They were so big. Well, the principal said a few more words, and he thanked everybody for coming. And so then they were dismissed, and they all walked back to their buses or their cars. Some of them came in cars. You know, they didn't bring a bus up. Most of them had a bus. And so Mr. Farmer Brown got them all inside the bus. And he said, okay, boys and girls, he says, Miss Lee, your principal, and I have a surprise for you. And Miss Eileen says, what is the surprise? Because we were supposed to go back to school this afternoon and give Miss Lee, her birthday present, remember? And Mr. Farmer Brown says, oh, yeah, I heard about that. Well, Miss Eileen says, well, how are we going to give it to her if we're going to go? Where are we going to go? And he says, well, I have a big surprise for you, boys and girls. Me and Mrs. Lee have booked a tour in St. Augustine, and we are going to drive from Jacksonville over to St. Augustine. It's not too far, so you boys and girls won't have time to sleep. And he said, tomorrow, they all jump up and down. They did not know they were going to spend the night. Now, Mrs. Piggy, you know, she's very smart. She kind of wondered why they had to bring their jammies and the next day's clothes. So she kind of figured that something was going on. She's real smart. And Patty Pig's mama, she looks back and like this at Mama Pig, and she goes, you know. So off to St. Augustine they went. Well, now St. Augustine is, like I said, a very old town. And it's just really pretty. Well, GrandMommy hasn't been there for several years, so I hope it's still pretty. Okay? And you can see the old schoolhouse, and you can see the old church, and you can see the old fort. And there was a fort built there out of what they call coquina rocks. And coquina rocks are great big stones with bumpies on them. They're scratchy. but they're used for building here in Florida. And boy, I mean, they stick together. So that's what the fort was made out of. And there's been a lot of famous stories about who's been a prisoner in that fort and the wars that they fought and everything like that. So it's really interesting to go to St. Augustine. People ought to go there more often. And so the boys and girls, Mr. Farmer Brown told them that much, and Miss Eileen had never been there either, and so she really couldn't tell them too much. So they were just all excited. Well, they had two more surprises for the boys and girls and their mamas, the chaperones. They had so many chaperones, they only had 2 kids apiece to watch. How about that? Now, that was pretty good, So they got to the hotel, and some of the boys and girls had never stayed in a hotel before. They didn't even know what a hotel was, except that it had a lot of people in it. That's all they knew. So Mr. Farmer Brown, he pulls into the parking lot, and he stood up, he turned around, and he says, "Now, all you lady chaperones, I want to explain something to you. Mrs. Lee and I have paid for half of your hotel room, so your bill won't be so expensive." Oh my goodness gracious sakes. So boys and girls, let's pretend the room costs $50, and half of $50 is $25. So Mrs. Lee, the principal, and Mr. Farmer Brown put their money together, and he paid for $25 on the room. So all the chaperones, all they had to pay was $25. Well, they thought that was really nice for Mr. Farmer Brown and Mrs. Lee to do. And that's nice, isn't it? Well, the second surprise, they all got out of the bus and they formed their little lines with their walking buddy. And they go into the hotel, and guess who is standing in the lobby waiting for them? Mrs. Lee. Well, Miss Eileen was kind of like, uh-oh, I didn't bring the birthday present because I thought we were going to be back home in time. And Mrs. Lee said, well, she says, I kind of went in your room and looked around for a present that had my name on it. She says, so I brought it for you. And so she gave it to Miss Eileen. And so Miss Eileen was just, she was just laughing all over the place. She couldn't even hardly talk. And she had a little speech planned that she wanted to tell Miss Lee. So she just finally says, Miss Lee, I can't remember my little speech, but all the boys and girls here and I wish you a happy birthday, and so did the rest of the school, because all the school, every grade in that school chipped in their money. Oh my goodness gracious, she got Mrs. Lee the most beautiful painting. Oh, it was so pretty, and it was real expensive, and she had enough money to do this. Oh, it was beautiful. It was some water, and then it was some trees, and it was some flowers in it. Oh, it was so pretty, very pretty. So Miss Lee said, oh, she says, this will go in my dining room. She says, just perfect. She said, thank you very much. And Miss Eileen says, you're welcome. So they all got their rooms, and they paid their $25, and they were going to go that next day. They were going to go to St. Augustine. Well, I think it's probably too long to say what they did in St. Augustine. Maybe not. I guess we could do it real quick. They went to bed that night after supper, went to sleep, and then they got up, and they were all excited. And they went downstairs that morning for breakfast at the hotel. Well, the hotel had kind of like a serve-yourself kind of thing. And they had all sorts of cereal and oatmeal. Oh my gosh, oatmeal's so good. and they had eggs scrambled, and they had some bacon, they had biscuits. Oh my goodness, they just had, and they had sausage gravy you could put on the biscuits, and they had honey you could put on the biscuits. They had everything. They had orange juice and grapefruit juice and tea and milk and coffee. These boys and girls, they had a whole lot for breakfast because they kept going back for them, especially the boys, because they always eat more than the girls do. Well, then they got through breakfast, and they got on the bus, and Mr. Farmer Brown took them downtown in the older part of St. Augustine. And they got to see the first church in St. Augustine, the old church, and it was so pretty. It was all wood, and it was real pretty inside, and it was wooden benches and a wooden roof and a wooden walls. I mean, it was just really, really pretty. And then they got to go to the old schoolhouse, and that looked almost like the church, but it had a front porch on it, which was unusual for a school to have a front porch on it. Now, in real life, I don't know if it's got a front porch or not, but that in GrandMommy's story, it does. So then they went to the fort, and the boys and girls ran around all over the fort and had a good time. Well, the chaperones corralled their kids and was reading them the signs about what each part of the fort did and was used for. So that was good too. Well, they just had a great time, and they could hear the ocean because it's not too far away from the ocean. They could hear it, and they all ran to Mr. Farmer Brown. Can we please go in the ocean and just wade our little feetses around somewhere? Please, please, please. And he said, well, I don't know. I'm going to have to get with Miss Eileen and Miss Lee about that now. He says, I don't know if we can do that or not because, I'm in charge of you boys and girls. You're on my bus, and I'm in charge of you. And what about if somebody would get hurt or would even drown? And all the boys and girls says, no, we won't. We'll be real careful. We'll be real careful. Please, 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 please. Oh, my goodness gracious. Whew. So he got a hold of Miss Lee and Miss Eileen, and they said, well, yeah, let's go, and we'll all watch these boys and girls real careful. So they did. They went over to the ocean, and they got off, and the boys and girls took their shoes and socks off, and they ran down the beach, and they ran into the ocean water, and it was so much fun. The ocean would come up, the waves would come up, and then go back, and the waves would come up and go back, and they were just having a ball. Well, about a half hour. Mr. Farmer Brown says, that's all you get, a half hour. Well, sure enough, that half hour got through. It was over. And Miss Lee called him. Excuse me. Miss Eileen called him. Mr. Farmer Brown called him. Because they weren't hearing him. They were just playing. They were sitting in the water. Now they got to change their clothes, because they can't sit on the bus with wet clothes on. It was amazing. So all the chaperones took the boys and girls to the little restroom things they have up there, and they went in and they changed their clothes. Thank goodness they brought extra clothes. Well, they all got in the bus, and about, maybe 5-6 hours later, maybe 4 hours later. I don't remember how long it takes to get from St. Augustine to Tampa, but anyway, they did get home, and their mamas fixed them all supper, and they went straight to bed because they were tired by this time. And they put the 3 little piggies. They had a shelf that it had some cars on it. So Squiggly says, why don't we take those toy cars off of that shelf? I bet that shelf would fit our trophies. That shelf just fit them with not very much room left over. They put the cars inside of some pictures, peeking out from some pictures. And they went straight to bed. And boys and girls, I think GrandMommy might take a nap, although every time I say that, I never do. So, what do you do today? You comment, you share, and you like, okay? And I don't see anybody on here. I haven't waved to anybody. I haven't seen any little stars and hearts and things he comes up. So I guess I'm just here by myself talking. All right, boys and girls, mommies and daddies, and grandmommies and grandpuppies, we will see you Friday. Monday. I'm getting my days mixed up. Monday. Okay? All right. Bye bye.